10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 443. Hey, everybody, welcome back to episode 443 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Hope you're all doing well out there, and this week we're going to continue our series on density. So we're going to keep using the great composition Recordame. Such an awesome tune for this kind of stuff because it has both worlds of, chords that last for 4 bars a piece, and then when we get into that second half, we've got the harmony moving a lot faster. So it's going to sort of make you think about two very different types of harmony, two very different ways of playing. And that's really good when we're talking about this density stuff. So make sure that if you're here and you're ready to dive into this week's material, that you have gone over episode 442 and that you've practiced the concepts that I asked you to practice in that episode. So just as a reminder, it was going through the form and practicing playing one note per bar. And this could be any value of note that you want to. So anything from a whole note all the way down to a 16th note. But just being able to achieve the goal of, hey, I'm going to play one note per bar, and I'm going to get through the form a couple of times doing that. And then, of course, we doubled that. So we went to 2 notes per bar, which is obviously harder because there's just more to keep track of per bar and the limits that come along with that when you're playing 2 notes, okay? So you want to be able to do that pretty reliably, because what we're going to do this week is introduce 3 notes per bar, but then we're also going to do some work where we're combining 1 note per bar, 2 notes per bar, 3 notes per bar in a creative way. So you just want to have taken care of some of that work and feel comfortable with it. So basically the first assignment for this week is pretty simple. You're going to go through Recordame, multiple choruses. Think like maybe 2 to 4 choruses. So minimum 2, but then you can do as many choruses basically as you want. And what we're going to practice now is we're going to practice playing 3 notes per bar. Now, the difficulty as we add notes per bar, it's kind of exponential because there's just more to keep track of. So if you did that work with 2 notes per bar, I'm sure that at some point you found yourself asking, did I play 2 notes in that bar? Oh no, was the second note over the bar line, like into the next bar? So it becomes a little bit of a thing where you really do have to engage like a lot to make sure that you are satisfying the requirements of the exercise. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think this is really, really, really important, because we hear jazz educators, myself included, saying all the time that the ultimate goal is to not think, is to just be able to play without thinking. And I think that's 100% true. When we are actually just committing the act of improvising, we really don't want to think, because thinking is only going to get in the way of making a creative, in the moment statement, musical statement. But practice looks a lot different than that. And actually, one of the ways that we can really achieve that goal of not thinking that when we play is to place these pretty severe restrictions on ourselves in the practice room where we have to think a whole lot. It's like that sort of dichotomy between thinking a whole bunch, trying to do something really, really specific and difficult, that then when those requirements aren't placed on us, we get this incredible feeling of freedom. Oh my gosh, I can just play with no restrictions. So this work that is really kind of, it's burning a lot of brain cells. It's burning a lot of calories to really make sure, oh, geez, did I play 2 notes in that bar? Did I play 3 notes in that bar? This kind of work actually leads to just a ton of freedom when you don't have to worry about all those restrictions. So it's that old saying, like, using a lot of restrictions will sometimes counterintuitively provide you with a lot more freedom when you get rid of those restrictions. That's kind of what we're after here. I've done a lot of this type of practicing in my life. And when I can finally just let go and play, I find that all those things I did in the practice room that really, really, really challenged me, they benefit my playing so much. Okay. All right. So anyway, rant over, back to the assignment for this week. So your first assignment is to go through a recordime and to play 3 notes per bar. And again, they can be any value. But now that we're trying to pack more notes into the bar, we have to consider a little bit more, right? Because we can't just play whole notes. We can't just play half notes because now they're not going to fit. So we necessarily have to use these smaller subdivisions, right? These faster subdivisions, just in order to get 3 notes in the bar. So you may have to spend a lot of time this week just trying to go for this first assignment. Can I reliably do 3 notes per bar? You could record yourself and really go back and pour over your playing and make sure, oh, I thought I was playing 3 notes per bar, but now that I'm listening back to it, geez, I'm having a lot of trouble doing that. Okay. So there it is. First assignment, very, very simple, but not easy. You hear me say that a lot this month. Simple, but not easy. So that's it. Very straightforward. Now, the second part is what we're going to do is once we get the 3 notes per bar down, and again, if you're at this point, you should be able to do 1 note and 2 notes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make some plans to combine these. So you'd want to take out a piece of paper and you would want to come up with a plan. So your plan could be, I'm going to do 1 note per bar for the first half of the form, and then over the second half of the form, I'm going to play 3 notes per bar. Or it could be, I'm going to play back and forth 1 bar each, 2 notes, 3 notes. So the first bar gets 2 notes, the second bar gets 3 notes, and you just cycle back and forth. The beauty of this, where you're doing this sort of like combination exercise, is that there's only as many iterations as your imagination will provide, right? So once you get the 3 notes down, maybe what you could do is come up with a plan to combine these, maybe 1 per day, and practice for 20 minutes with whatever combination you came up with. Now, I only mentioned combinations of 2 iterations. You could even do 3. You could say, okay, for 4 bars, I'm going to do 1. And then for the next 4 bars, I'm going to do 2 notes per bar. And then for the next 4 bars, I'm going to do 3 notes per bar. And then what's cool about that, what's really challenging about that, is that it turns over. The pattern lasts for 12 bars, but the form is 16 bars. So let's say you did 4 bars of 1 note, 4 bars of 2 notes, 4 bars of 3 notes, then you went back to 1. Well, now you're playing 1 note per bar for the last 4 bars of the form. And then when the top of the form comes around, you're playing 2. And the whole layout is like totally and completely different, right? So that could be a really great thing for you to do. And again, you're sort of using your own resourcefulness, your own imagination to come up with these combinations, which is going to be super duper good for you. So that's it. It's very, very simple on the surface. I just want you to do these 2 things. It's really going to force you to think really hard, but it's going to be so good for you. So I think I'll close out the episode by playing a combination myself. So I think what I'll do is I'll do 4 bars apiece, cycling back and forth between 2 notes per bar and 3 notes per bar. All right. And I'll play, 3 or 4 choruses using that combination. And hopefully I do a good job. I already know it's going to make my brain hurt, but that's part of this whole thing. So you'll be able to sort of hear me struggling through it. And I promise you, on my end, is not easy. I'm really, really, really thinking about this as I go through it. So just know that if you hear it and you're like, oh, geez, I have no problem doing this, just know that I'm sweating. I'm sweating over here a little bit. Okay. So we're going to give you all of the resources. We'll give you some 3-note trading tracks where we can practice doing the 3-note density together back and forth. And then I'll maybe provide you with some trading tracks where we're doing a couple of combination exercises, so you at least just get some guidance with that. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, we are a listener-supported podcast, which means we don't do any ads on the show. We just rely on jazz students just like you that like the show, find value in it. And we support ourselves in the form of a small monthly donation using the Patreon platform. In return for that donation, you get a whole bunch of resources with every single episode. So you can just hit the ground running with all the stuff that I'm talking about. And there's no barrier between these ideas that I'm presenting and you taking action, which obviously the action is where all the juice is. Okay. So if you want to support the show, just go to 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, or you can go to patreon.com and search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. All the info is over there, what you get for the different donation levels. And once you sign up, you get instant access, not only to this episode, but to every single episode that we've ever done. And there's a lot of good stuff over there. So if you want to support us, we would really appreciate it. This is the way that the podcast keeps coming out each and every week. Quick shout out to some new Patreon members. Thank you to Thomas and Nolan for becoming new members. Really happy to have you in the family. And of course, to the over 350 people we have over there supporting the show, we thank you. We definitely couldn't do this without you. So again, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners or patreon.com, search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, and you can get rolling with that stuff right away. So we'll close out the episode with a little bit of that combination exercise. Listen for it. It'll be 4 bars of 2 notes per bar, 4 notes of 3 notes per bar, just kind of going back and forth between the two. Should give you a good idea of what I'm looking for this week. All right. Hope you're all doing well. We'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.